Welcome to Jazz Time. JazzTime.com is an online store that buys, sells, trades authentic luxury watches. We make these videos so our customers can easily choose the best watch for themselves in the comfort of their own home. If you like this watch and would like to purchase it lowest price anywhere online, click on the link in the description below to buy it at JazzTime.com. Today, I'm going to be reviewing the Patek Philippe Grand Complication Chronograph Perpetual Calendar reference 5270P-014 in platinum with a green dial. I want to talk to you a little bit about the history of the 5270 and the Perpetual Calendar Chronograph, then tell you about where this watch stands in the lineup of other 5270s, then talk to you specifically about the case, bezel, dial, bracelet. Finally, I'll try it on and give you my thoughts. So let's start with the history. This is a perpetual calendar, which means the calendar runs forever, perpetual. You never have to reset it so long as the watch is wound and working. Unlike an annual calendar, which you have to reset once a year, and unlike a normal calendar that you have to reset every 30 days. Okay, so it's a perpetual calendar, and I'll get to that in a moment when I talk to you about the dial, how you can tell. Now, it has a chronograph, as you see, as well. So it has two complications, which in Patek's catalog makes it a grand complication. The fact that it has two complications. The first complication is the perpetual calendar. Second one is the chronograph. The chronograph is shown with these two subdials at the 3 and the 9 o'clock position. That's the chronograph. Okay. All right. Specifically, actually not at the 3 and the 9. Actually, only at the 3 o'clock. Is a 30-minute counter. So once you activate it, I'll show you when we get to it. But anyways, the right subdial is how you calculate the elapsed time on this chronograph. Okay. So it's in the family of chronograph perpetual calendar. Now, this 5270 was released back in 2011. That makes, as of 2024, 13 years ago. That's a long, very, very long time for the 5270 to be out. And so, but it has a long history. And before the 5270 was the 5970, which was a little bit smaller at 40 millimeters. This one's 42. And that was produced from 2004 to 2010. So that's bringing you back 20 years. There was not a lot of them. That's still a very nice watch. A lot of people like the 5970, but I can just say the 5970 was a little bit too small and a little bit too crowded on the dial, and it used an older and a non-in-house movement. It used the Lamania movement, whereas this 5270 uses everything in-house. That's the first time they did this watch in everything in-house. The case, everything, the movement, and that was produced in 2011. And before 2004, there was a 5004, and even before that, there was a 3970. But the 5004, or actually, I think the 3970, which was in the 90s, was 36 millimeter. Really, honestly, that's just too small. Yes, it's an engineering feat that they could fit this all in, but it looks super crowded, and it just was too small. 36 millimeters just was really too small. And so now they have it done at perfection, in my opinion, which I'll go through in a little bit to show you, and it really looks perfect at 42 millimeters. Okay, so that's a little bit about the history. All right, now let's talk about where does this watch stand in the lineup of other 5270s. Now, as I said, the 5270 was released in 2011. That's a long time ago. It's 13 years. So they made many different variations. And by the way, if you want to see those variations, simply go to jazztime.com or click on the link in the description below to view it at jazztime.com and buy it. Okay. All right. So when they made it in yellow gold. They made it in rose gold. They had it in several versions in platinum. They had it in white gold, in rose gold. They had it on a bracelet. And now they finally have it in the version that you see. This is the final iteration of it. I suspect that they'll still make a few more because it's such a there's really nothing wrong with the watch. It's done to perfection, and it's taken them quite some time to figure out how to make it to perfection. They've done the movement. They haven't changed the movement, but they've made different changes in the dial color, the dial configuration, the dial and the hands, which I'll get to in a moment. So what you see right here is the 2024 version, the final iteration of this. And this watch replaces the previous salmon dial platinum edition of it in approximately in 2022, and now it's 24, so it's been out for around 2 years. I suspect probably another year or so they will replace this one in place of another dial iteration. Who knows what that new color will be, but for right now this is it. Okay, so that is where this watch stands in the lineup. Now, I forgot to say, it is part of the Grand Complications. Now, Patek makes several lines of watches. They make the Complications, which just means they have one complication, and they have a Grand Complication, which is a perpetual calendar and something else, or at the very minimum, a perpetual calendar. And then they make the Nautilus and Aquanaut lines, which are very famous, and they make some ladies ones, 24, and so on. But the main ones are the Complications and the Grand Complications, which this falls under the highest level of watchmaking that Patek has to offer in that category, which is the Grand Complications. So if you think that you've reached that level, or you can afford it, or fortunate enough to afford it, then the Grand Complication of Patek is what you would be looking at. Very few people achieve this level mostly because of the price. I mean, it looks a beautiful watch, but let's be honest, $100,000, $200,000 for a watch is quite expensive. Now, if you have the means to afford that and you can shop at Jazz Time, God bless you. Click on the link in the description below. You can buy this watch not only at right now, you can also buy it at the lowest price anywhere online. Okay, that's where this watch stands in the lineup. Now let's start talking about the watch itself. Let's start with the case. The case, as I told you, is platinum. Now, Patek only makes the Grand Complication in rose gold, white gold, yellow gold, and platinum. And currently, the platinum and the yellow gold are the only ones that are currently in production. Oh, actually, they make a rose gold, but it's on a bracelet. Okay, so they only make the Grand Complication in these precious metals. And if you ask me, my personal opinion, I like the platinum the best. I'll tell you a little bit about why when we get to the dial, but for me, I like the platinum the best. And this one is platinum. It's the hardest of the precious metal materials. It's very understated. It's still a very expensive and noble metal, but it's not in your face like yellow or rose gold. Okay? All right. So, and let's talk, since we're talking about the case. Now, the case is the largest. Actually, I think earlier I said 42 millimeters. I was mistaken. Sorry. It's 41 millimeters. And why is that important? Well, you would like a watch that has some heft and some size to it, but you don't want one that's too big. And 41 millimeters is a step up from the previous generation, which was 40 millimeters. And let's look at the case, the case on this watch. The case on this watch, in my opinion, it's amazing. And it's what makes this watch better than the previous generation. Look at the steps on the lugs and the way that the lugs are shaped. They have these irregularly shaped sort of I don't know how you describe it, but the lugs, the way that they're shaped are done quite nicely, and it has this irregular step shape to it, which adds a lot of character. And if you look, it just at the side of the case, let's say you look at the 9 o'clock, then it also has these ridges. And then if you look at the pusher side, where the crown and all that, it has all these buttons and everything, and it looks, a lot of edges to it. In my opinion, they really knocked it out of the park when it comes to the shape of this case. One of the most beautiful cases that Patek makes. Patek makes a lot, so that's saying a lot. Okay, that is the case. Now, also, when you turn the watch on its side, you can see that the height, for being a Grand Complication, the highest complication that Patek makes, it's only 12.4 millimeters. If you look at a Rolex Datejust, it's 12 millimeters. This one, not only does it have a calendar, it's perpetual, and it also has a chronograph, and it also tells time and date. And it actually even has an AM/PM indicator. I mean, so that's quite a bit of complications. I forgot to say, it also has a moon phase. I forgot to say at the very beginning. So that's a lot of complications and they packed it all into a 12.4 millimeter case. So it's not that thick. You would imagine this watch being super thick. It's not. And it's quite compact for what it is. Okay, so that is the case. All right, now let's move on to the bezel. The bezel, actually, you might just think, oh, it's just a, bezel. Well, actually, the bezel, yeah, it's not like fluted like a Rolex or anything, but it does have a concave bezel. Now, why does that matter? Well, the concave bezel actually makes the watch look thinner, because concave means it recesses or goes down. Convex would be a bezel that goes outward. Concave means it goes downward, and that's what this one does. And it also allows the light to shine on it and make it even look smaller. So that it's a visual effect that Patek has achieved, and just really makes this watch look stunning. I mean, what can I say? Just look at the video yourself. Look at it. You know what you're looking at on the screen. It looks great, and of course, it's wildly successful for Patek because this is one of their bestseller Grand Complications, and this one of their longest standing line Grand Complications. Probably, I would say actually, it's their most common or most sought after one that most people will get when they get a Grand Complication, because Patek makes Grand Complications that are literally $1 million, and most people, myself included, cannot afford $1 million for a watch, and most of you at home probably also cannot. So, but some very fortunate can afford this, you know, one in the mid hundreds, high hundreds. So, anyways, that makes this one a very popular Grand Complication. Okay, now let's talk about the dial. Now I want to say this. I've been saving this one actually for this moment to talk to you about the dial. Now the dial, as you can see, aside from the very obvious part, which is it's green, and it has a gradient green. It's a lacquered green. It's actually not an enamel green. Now you might be wondering what is the difference. Actually, I was like, what is the difference too? An enamel is when they bake the color into it. A lacquer is when they paint it. The painting is cheaper. The enamel is more expensive. So they do enamels, but they do it on their even more expensive Grand Complications, such as their split second chronograph, which is one step above this, which is a 5204. But at any rate, this one is lacquer. Now it doesn't make it look any worse. In fact, if you look at this dial, I actually think it looks better than the enamel black dial or enamel gray dial that they make. So on the other Grand Complications, this green dial, if you notice, the center is lighter green, and it goes and fades toward black on the periphery. Now you might wonder, why would you want that? Well, you know, first of all, wearing a green watch is not easy, right? Because the green doesn't match a lot of things. Although it is a beautiful color, it doesn't match a lot of things. So, but it is a beautiful color. So what has Patek done? I suspect that as a result of them wanting to use this beautiful green color and realizing that, practically speaking, it doesn't match a lot of things, what they decided to do is fade it out toward the periphery, so that it even brings the green out even more, and it allows the watch to almost look black in not so bright light. So it allows you to wear this watch and have much more functionality for it. Okay, and it just has a subtle hue of green. That's my suspicion, and I think that I'm probably right about that. Otherwise, why don't I just make the whole darn thing green? All right. Anyways, it has a beautiful green dial, has a black gradient rim, and the hour markers here are fashioned in, actually you would think that would be done in platinum, but they're actually done in white gold. So, but anyways, but the main thing for me is the hour markers and the hands, and you've never seen this on any 5270, so pay attention. The hour markers are not Breguet hour markers, they're index hour markers, and the hands are not leaf or they're not double sword hand, or sorry, they don't have these rounded hands, which make it look very old school. Now if you look at any other 5270s, it has Breguet hour markers and the hands are circular, or not circular, semicircular, double-sided semicircular, which looks great, don't get me wrong, but it makes it look old school. They did index with these different hands, like leaf hands. They did the index markers with leaf hands, but it looks really old school, and it is old school. It was produced in 2011. That's more than 10 years ago. Times change, and now they did this double-sided sword, which looks a lot better, much more modern, if you ask me, and it makes the watch really pop. I have to say, for me, that really makes it. That's why this dial is my favorite, as opposed to any of the older ones. It's a much cleaner look, by the way. Also, it doesn't clutter the dial. The watch already has a lot of complications going on to it. I don't believe that you have to add, you know, Breguet hour markers and such to it. It's just better to keep it index and these very nice double-sided sword hands. Okay, All right, that's the hands, that's the dial, that's everything. Oh, what we're gonna say, the moon phase at the 6 o'clock, the um, the date or the 1 to 31 is here also at the moon phase area. The right hand side where the 3 o'clock is the chronograph counter. Now, when you start the chronograph at the top, when the big hand goes around once, then it's a 30-minute chronograph counter. It'll pop over one instantaneously. It doesn't slide over. It just pops over in immediate, which is kind of nice. And the left-hand side on the 9 o'clock is just a running 60-second counter. All right. And then, of course, you have the day, Monday through Sunday, at the left-hand side, and the month on the right. And on the bottom, this little circle right here, you'll have the number 1, 2, 3, 4, and that corresponds to the leap year. So we have a leap year once every 4 years. When it gets to the 4, that means we're on the leap year, and that it'll jump from February 28th directly to March 1st. That's the difference on a perpetual calendar. Normally, it'll just jump on the 29th day of February, which is the normal time of on year 1, 2, and 3. It'll do that on all other annual calendars. But on a perpetual calendar, it will jump on the leap year from 28 to 1, and it automatically. So that means you don't have to change it. Now, how practical is that? I don't think it's that practical, but it is very, very cool. Because first of all, this watch is manual wind, and that means you'd have to literally wear it every day and wind it, every day. And I don't think people who have this watch wear it every day. But it doesn't really matter because, it's not really for that. It's just that it has it and it's very, very cool. Maybe some of you do. If you do, then good for you. But vast majority of customers that we sell this watch who don't wear it every day. But it is still a very cool thing to have on here. Okay. All right, that's the dial. That I've explained that to you. Now let's move on to the movement here. Now, I want to tell you why this movement is better and why you'd want to go with this watch as opposed to something else, as opposed to older version. At 2011, Patek decided, instead of outsourcing our movements to Lemania, 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 and then modifying their movements, why don't we just make it all in-house? And so they did. So they made this perfect movement. It's so perfect that they've literally been using it for 14 years. So that tells you how perfect it is. And in my opinion, it is a perfect movement. It's, first of all, it's beautiful. Second of all, it has a lot of parts, which I don't know what all these parts do. It doesn't really matter. There's 456 parts. Now, to give you some reference, a normal chronograph is around mid 200 parts, or almost maybe 300. A split second might have 600 parts. So a perpetual chronograph has 450 parts, which is a lot of parts. Okay, and by comparison, the super complicated watch has 1,000 parts. So this is very complicated. Not super complicated, but very complicated. It looks beautiful, and it's all made in-house, meaning it's made by Patek Philippe, not outsourced to anyone else. And I believe, though, you're going to use it for quite some time longer before they replace it, because I'm not sure what else they can replace. It is manual wind. That means you have to manually wind it. The power reserve lasts 55 to 65 hours. That's like maybe 2.5 days. So you have to wind it, or you have to wear it. You can't just put it on a winder. You have to physically wind it, which, by the way, is a very satisfying feeling. Okay, that's the movement. All right, now let's move on to the strap here. Now the strap here is green, as you can see, but it's a very light green, or I should say very, very dark green, and it has a green stitch to it. Okay, and it's a crocodile strap, right? It's actually, sorry, the strap itself is black alligator, but the stitching is green, so it makes it look a little bit green, but it holds. Well, anyways, it's a black strap with a green stitch on it. Okay, now the buckle is your typical deployant buckle. It's a fold-over clasp, and it matches in platinum. Not that exciting about that, but it is beautiful. Okay, all right, that's it. So let's try this watch on. I am 6 foot tall, 200 pounds. I have a 7.5-inch wrist. This is a 41 millimeter. It fits absolutely perfect. And my thoughts are, it's for me, it's the Grand Complication. It's one of my favorite. I actually like the 5204 also, but this one also is one of the top ones I like. And It's just, I think it's a fantastic watch. It's a great dress watch that really looks undercover. Not a lot of people are going to stare at your wrist. It looks beautiful. So if you like to buy it, click on the link in the description below to buy it at jazztime.com.
If you want to find out more about the watch you just saw in the video, you can just click below on Show More to see the full description. Then you can check the link next to Model as seen in video, click on it and you will get to the proper page where you can see all the details. If you're watching on a mobile phone, you have to click on the arrow down on the right hand side below the video to see the full description. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. If you would like to share this video with your friends, you can use the share button below and share it on any platform you like. If you have questions, constructive feedback, want to tell us about some mistakes or misspeaks, just write a comment below. If you want to see more videos like this, you should subscribe to our channel and visit our channel page where you can find all the videos. And if you're interested in a specific watch brand, you can check out our playlists. If you want to check the price for a watch or want to buy one, remember at jazztime.com you always get a steep discount, so you should check the prices with us. If you want to know the price for a specific watch, just go to Google, type in JazzTime, plus the brand, model and the details you're interested in, and Google will find the right page for you. Thank you for watching.